Okay, thank you.
Okay. Eldorado Energy Fire Protection. August 21, 25. We're going back into open session, call to order, roll call please.
Director Kaiserman,
Here.
Director Breton.
Here.
Director Ogan.
Here.
Director Edmiston.
Here.
Director Gilchrist.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, quorum has been established.
Everyone's here, right? Want to join me for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
So I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
We have all those in favor? Any opposed? No. Moving on, consent calendar. All items approved on a single vote except those pulled for individual discussion and action. Anybody have anything to pull? No, okay. So I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
The motion to approve the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? We did all of them? No, yeah, we're all here.
Not used to that, are we?
I know, what is it? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Moving on to public comment. Any person wishing to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Anybody online?
You have a couple people online, but I don't have anybody's hands raised.
Anybody out there? No? Okay. Item 7, report of actions taken in closed session. We need a motion to approve both of the MOUs and subject to us signing the final clean documents once they arrive here.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Who's the second? Director Ogan?
Okay, so now we need to go down. Roll call.
Director Kaiserman.
Aye.
Director Breton.
Aye.
Director Ogan.
Aye.
Director Edmiston.
Aye.
Director Gilchrist.
Aye.
Okay, recognition of retirement. Chief Cordett.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two of our retired chief officers that are here. Thank you both. Come to hopefully your last board meeting, but, you know, we're really kind of going through some transition with the agency right now. It's been a little bit surreal for me because, you know, we've talked collectively as a group, you know, for the last several years of like, hey, you know, we're gonna hit this point down the road where, you know, Chief McVeigh's gonna retire, Chief Lohan, myself, Chief Gallup. Like Baganski's the only one left in the room here. But you know, this day's coming, wow, it's gonna be a big transition, a big change, and, well, we're here. Chief McVeigh was the first one through the door with, his retirement in July, and then Chief Lohan kind of came in right behind him and punched out. We know that Chief Dutch is, you know, he's got a couple months to go, and Chief Gallagher and I had a couple months, several months after that, hopefully, so. But, it's, a lot of transition, a lot of moving parts of the agency, but, you know, with the retirements of, Chief McVeigh and Chief Lohan, you know, we've got some new, acting chiefs that are coming behind them with Captain Lemos and, Captain Anderson, so we're poised to be in a really good position to keep that momentum moving forward and really build off the legacies of both our chiefs here have brought to the table. So with that, we have two resolutions, both of them to acknowledge the retirements and make sure. Right. So we'll do Chief McVeigh's first. There are my glasses. So this is resolution 2025-11. It's commending Division Chief Paul McVeigh. Whereas Paul McVeigh began serving as a volunteer firefighter in 1992 with the Eldorado County Fire Protection District. And I'm just skipping to whereas. And Paul McVeigh was hired in 1993 as a seasonal firefighter with CAL FIRE 12 Calaveras unit assigned to the Esperanza Station. And Paul McVeigh worked as an apprentice firefighter for El Dorado County Fire Protection District through 1999. In 1999, Paul McVeigh was hired as a firefighter paramedic, and Paul McVeigh was promoted to the rank of engineer paramedic in 2005. And on January 10, 2007, Paul McVeigh was promoted to the rank of captain. And on January 5th, 2014, Captain McVeigh was promoted to the rank of division chief. And during his career with the El Dorado County Fire Protection District, Chief McVeigh has been involved in the district's strategic reorganization, the Fire Prevention Bureau, the training division, hiring manager, and was instrumental in development of our helicopter rescue technician program. And whereas Chief McVeigh, a respected and dedicated member of the El Dorado County Fire Protection District, retired on July 8, 2025, the board of directors wish to honor and thank Chief McVeigh for 33 years of service to the citizens of El Dorado County and wish him well in his future endeavors. This will be adopted by the board today, August 25th, 2025. And we have a plaque. We are blessed to have one of our engineers who's a weather guy. And so he's custom made shields for all his flags. We have a plaque for Chief McVeigh, really honoring and it's a bit surreal for me. We spent many a day and night on Medic 25 and 625 back in the day, and you know, I look back, those are some of really my fondest memories. Driving around creating our own lyrics to country songs and things like that.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah.
And Chief McVeigh, or Logan. This is resolution 2025-12, which is commending Division Chief Paul Lohan. Upon completion of a 5-year enlistment with the United States Marine Corps, Paul Lohan began serving in 1994 as a volunteer firefighter with the Diamond Springs, El Dorado Fire Protection District. In 2001, Paul Lohan was hired as a firefighter paramedic with the El Dorado County Fire Protection District. Paul Lohan also served as a paramedic field training officer, mentoring new paramedics. And Paul Lohan was promoted to the rank of engineer paramedic in February of 2006. In December of 2008, Paul Lohan was promoted to the rank of captain paramedic. Paul Lohan was promoted to the rank of division chief in January of 2014. Chief Lohan has served the district and the citizens in various capacities throughout his career. His involvement includes the apparatus committee, district training officer, fleet manager, safety officer, local OAS coordinator, and district operations chief for the district. Chief Lohan has also served the citizens across the state responding to major fires in the capacity of a strike team leader and division group supervisor. Chief Lohan, a respected and dedicated member of the El Dorado County Fire Protection District, retired on August 8, 2025. And the board wishes to honor and thank Chief Lohan for 31 years of service to the citizens of El Dorado County and wish him well in his future endeavors. To be adopted today, the 21st of August, 2025. We also have a plaque from Bautista for you.
Kind of like those, but.
Wow.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's 2 of our 3 balls.
Two down, 1 to go.
Yeah. Again, it's
The three balls. Or give you love over here.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's been an honor and privilege working with both of you over years. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay. Riveting event.
Hey, just remember, the first of the month, is the best of the, it's the best day of the month.
Bye, buddy. You stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's like.
Never come back in El Dorado.
He's got most of the retirement already. It is.
Like trouble.
Okay, item 9.
I need motions to approve
Right,
those
Oh,
resolutions.
we need,
Yeah.
for each one.
Yes,
We
please.
sign them.
I need a motion to approve resolution 2025-11, division.
I'll, make that motion.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh,
It's a resolution.
That's a resolution, right?
Director Hardiman,
I,
Director Britton.
Aye.
Director Rogan.
Aye.
Director Evanston.
Aye.
Director Gilchrist.
Aye.
that's a 100%. Okay. I need a motion to approve resolution 2025-12, division chief, hold on.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2025-12. Second.
Director Hardiman,
I,
Director Britton.
Aye.
Director Rogan.
Aye.
Director Evanston.
Aye.
Director Gilchrist.
Aye.
that's a
Thank you.
100%. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
number 9, departmental matters, administrative agreement for independent contractors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have Ken Campo who is online. He was unable to attend today, but previous committee is available online. The El Dorado County Fire Finance Committee has been discussing the future, the plan for the future with the pending retirement of Chief Dutch. Chief Dutch has filled a critical role for the board and the district as a financial and risk officer. Staff reached out to Ken Campo as a recommendation to inquire on his availability to assist the district in filling the gap behind the retirement of Chief Dutch. Members from both Diamond Springs Fire and County Fire met with Mr. Campo on July 22nd and unanimously agreed his experience and talent would meet the needs of our district moving forward. Staff has had discussion with Mr. Campo to retain his services to assist our district with our finances. Mr. Campo has agreed to assist the team with the following plan. These are kind of some loose numbers, part of the discussion with Mr. Campos. He too is also looking to retire, so not really interested in a 2-year that becomes a 3, becomes a 5, becomes a 6, although that would really benefit our agency. So we talked about a 12 to 18 month commitment. Mr. Campo felt like it would take him about 6 months to really kind of wrap his head around all of the finances and do the assessment of County Fire and Diamond Springs. And then the next 6 to 12 months loosely would be planning and projections for the board on the financial piece. And then around that 12 to 18 month mark, providing a recommendation to the board for the long-term solution for the position, whether that's a recommendation that you get another consultant, or you should hire a position, or what that piece looks like based on his assessment. Mr. Campos provided the district with a proposed agreement and scope of work, which is attached to my staff report. The proposed agreement includes a billing rate not to exceed the amount of $140 per hour and is valid through December 31st of 2026. Staff recommend the board approve the agreement for the independent contractor with Mr. Ken Campo and authorize fire chief to sign said agreement and attach the staff report or again the service agreement and Mr. Campo's resume. And as I noted, Mr. Campo is online if the board has any questions.
Is there any public comment on this agreement? No, board comments?
Yeah, I, was looking at the resume there from one of those agencies that he, works with. And I shared this with Chief Cordero, one of the agencies, American Canyon. The chief is a good friend of mine, so even though heard good stuff about Mr. Campos, I called Chief Bellier, and he had nothing but gushing appraisal for the guy, saying, you know, that he did some exercises, financial exercises for him that benefit the district greatly and was just extremely accurate and detailed, and they were extremely happy with him. So that's all it said to me. I let the chief know, we're gonna hear that as well, but it was just, for me personally, it was just validation that that got the right person for the job, for sure.
I think Ken is an excellent fit, also based on discussions in the finance committee meeting. And from what I heard from Cameron Park as well, doing an exceptional job. And then I think there's a area for, I caught a couple typos. One, I think it's exhibit A and exhibit B. It mentions general manager, I think it should say fire chief, or it's, it takes direction from. So I think that's a minor issue. And, that was it. That was my only comment.
I met with Ken at the finance committee meeting. And he definitely, he talks the talk of a CFO. He really knows his stuff. And I think he'll be a great asset to this organization. Chief Dutch did a great job, but this is the guy speaking CFO language, and I think that's really critical where we are right now in terms of putting together projections and giving us a good understanding of what the variables are going forward. And I look forward to working with him.
Just one note of clarification is that we did not meet with him at a finance committee meeting. We had members of the
Oh,
finance
right.
committee that were there, but it was not. our
Oh, that's correct.
That is
All right.
right.
Clarity.
Yeah.
Mr. Campbell is online. Ken, I don't know if you have any comments or anything like that.
Thank you, Chief. No, nothing other than, I'd just like to thank the board and Chief Cordero for this opportunity. And I'm looking forward to working with the district through this transition, and just looking forward to getting started. Thank you.
So do I have a motion to have Cordero, Chief Cordero sign the agreement for the independent contractor services?
I'll make a motion to, sign the agreement with the change on Exhibit A, removing general manager and having the state fire chief. Fifth bullet point. Second.
Need a roll call.
Yeah. Director Kaiserman,
Aye.
Director Brennan,
Aye.
Director Ogen,
Aye.
Director Evanston,
Aye.
Director Gilchrist.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, great.
Thank you, Ken. I'll get you a signed contract here later today.
Thank you, Chief.
And also, the sooner he can meet with Chief Dutch, the
I'll
better.
get that scheduled.
Get that scheduled. Pass on some knowledge. Item E, administrative resolution 2025-10, adopting findings supporting amendments to the California Fire Code.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You do in your board packet a staff report that was produced by Division Chief Bansky. And Division Chief Bansky is here. I'll turn this to him for his expertise on it. He's in the.
Good afternoon. So this request is to adopt the findings supporting the amendments to the California Fire Code. So this, the purpose of this specific resolution is to adopt the findings as they apply to the geographic, the climactic, and the topographic areas of our jurisdiction, because those are the authorities which grant the amendments to the fire code themselves. For us to be more restrictive than the fire code, we have to have conditions that that specify that we have a special area to do so. So this California's triennial code cycle updates the California Fire Code, Title 24, Part 9, and our local jurisdictions may adopt more restrictive fire and life safety standards when supported by express findings due to these conditions from the Health and Safety Code. The attached resolution states that those what those findings are and links each local amendment to the applicable finding, creating a clear administrative record for the 2025 cycle. The findings summarize the district's conditions, such as seasonal dryness, wind, steep terrains and canyons, legacy access and egress issues, wildland urban interface exposure, and lifeline reliability during major incidents, and explains why tailored local amendments are reasonably necessary. Adoptions of the findings include a direct finding to amendment connection for the Health and Safety Code, consistency with the companion fire code adoption and local amendments ordinance, and a concise board adopted reference for plan review inspections and enforcement. And the staff recommend the board directors adopt resolution 2025-10, adopting the findings supporting the amendments to the California Fire Code to provide the required express findings that justify the district's local amendments based on climatic, geographical, geological and topographical conditions. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any public comment on this item? So I have a question. So is this, we're adopting what the state is giving us to say that we have to get up to these requirements? But we can go beyond them? Is that what it is?
Correct, yeah, so there are certain things that we have to adopt, or that we benefit from by adopting the fire code. So there are certain portions of the fire code that the state itself doesn't adopt. It is in our best interest to adopt some of those, even just for reference. So the amendments or the attachments in the back of the fire code are a good example of that, because there are specific conditions that help our agency to plan projects specific to a certain industry, where we might have some impact. So to be able to use those as rules, there's a benefit to us at doing this. And so this portion of this discussion is really just to acknowledge that the conditions exist for us to propose the changes to the fire code, which will be in the ordinance adoption, the next question or the next section on the agenda. So this is really more of a procedural point. We do this every year, and again, just to acknowledge that we have certain climatic, geological, and topographical conditions within our jurisdiction. And a lot of that tends to, and there is some enhancement, I should say, to this from last year, or the last time that this was adopted 3 years ago. And more so it is to emphasize the wildland urban interface aspect and the dry climates, winds, and then some more on snow for some of the amendments that are being proposed in the ordinance. I'll talk about that specifically when we get to that section.
Board comments on it?
Just one comment on section 108, cost recovery fee. Saw a little bit of traffic from the Taxpayers Association as to negligence, and some clarity was being sought as far as what it might be benchmarked against to mean negligence. And several people asked me, and I said, I don't know, I will ask. And so I don't know what we can say about that, to call that out, to address that question.
Is that in the ordinance section?
I believe, well, if it says 108.5.2, yeah,
Okay, I think that's in the ordinance section.
so that's the
And
next.
I'm happy to discuss that in this topic if you want.
Oh, we can
That's
do
the
that
next.
next time, sorry, I jumped ahead. There was a lot in.
There's a lot. I will agree.
Okay. Any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-10?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Director Kaiserman.
Aye.
Director Bratton.
Aye.
Director Ogen.
Aye.
Director Evanston.
Aye.
Director Gilchrist.
Aye.
Then item C is ordinance 2025-1-2025 fire code adoption, first reading.
So this ordinance that we're going to ask you to read for the first reading is the adoption of ordinance number 2025-1, the 2025 California Fire Code, Title 24, Part 9, with district local amendments. And the ordinance 2025-01 adopts the 2025 California Fire Code, Title 24, Part 9, and incorporates the 2024 International Fire Code as described, providing district-specific amendments. It also identifies sections on findings of fact, adoptions with inclusions, local amendments, conflict, severability, and effective date and publication of the ordinance. So the ordinance 2025-1 essentially adopts the 2025 California Fire Code and incorporates the 2024 International Fire Code and identifies the exclusions. It implements local amendments, for example, access roads, hydrants, sprinkler, alarms, hazardous materials, and appendices such as B, C, and D, tailored to district conditions. This would repeal the ordinance of 2022-02 to avoid any conflicts. And that is basically this ordinance repeals the old version of that. The ordinance is supported by the separate agendized resolution adopting of findings, which supplies the required express findings linking each amendment to local climatic, geological, and topographical conditions. And staff recommends that the board introduce this. We have the full reading, read by title only of ordinance number 2025-01, adopting the 2025 California Fire Code by reference with the district's local amendments, and also set the second reading and adoption for September 18th, the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And upon adoption, repeal the ordinance number 2022-02, direct the secretary of the board to publish as required and file, transmit the ordinance to partner agencies. And with that, I will, I can take questions, but I can also go over a review of everything if you would like.
Any public comment on that first? I read it, it was,
I do, the one question
Which is it?
is, 108.5.2, yeah, and then 108.7 is, along the lines, is there gonna be, for lack of a better term, a schedule or something that I calls out what negligence is? And I see it says may be charged in both of those. Does that may mean it comes to the board for approval, or is that at the fire chief's discretion for affecting those fees or any of those violations or costs?
So for the specific to the cost recovery, I mean, there's really two components of that. One is the establishment of fees. Obviously, the establishment of fees is done by the board directors. So we usually do those adjacent with some kind of a fee study or nexus to assure that those fees are reasonable to be assessed. The other side of that question is the whether or not we would levy fees against a person. The reason why this section occurs in here is that if we have somebody who really it has more of a determination of like if there's a fire that's caused by arson or other intentional means, that we have an ability to tie on some kind of a compensation to be able to recoup some of the fees or the costs associated with that by the agency. So that's something that's it's not routinely levied. It's not something that we would necessarily just unilaterally levy cost recovery fees. It would be definitely a discussion with the fire chief and probably likely the board of directors in that instance.
Our legal counsel.
And our legal counsel for sure.
Okay.
So, but that's the mechanism for us to get some cost recovery if there's intent or negligence. Or
But it sounds like willful intent. And don't get me wrong, just because someone doesn't know, but if they have their firewood so close to their house, negligence, and they're cutting wood and the spark goes and sets it off. And this is all hypothetical, but they're saying it's, would that homeowner be levied a fee for coming out or something like that? And they were looking for some clarity on that. So I think our discussion highlights the point, and I think if it's, because then part of the other side is that, hey, wait, my taxes go to pay for these services. And yet now I might have to pay a fee on top of it. And so,
I think that are clear cut one, the example you gave, if I can get her going, but that one's pretty muddy. Here could be a clear one for how the fire district in particular will be is commercial building and knowingly, for whatever reason, they shut down the sprinkler system, close the sprinkler system. Fire occurs due to whatever negligence, accident, whatever, or arson, then gives way for, because there's been a clear violation of the fire code, the sprinkler system. And then what causes the fire, that could go down the road, whether it's arson, whether it's negligence, whether it's accidental. And especially say it be a larger commercial building, multiple day event of mop up and all that sort of thing of the building, thereby costing. Now we're gonna have to have a couple of companies there over a day or two, doing a lot of work and hiring behind OT, those kind of things. That gives a mechanism, and it's in code, that's why it's in that code, so that an agency has the ability to recoup the costs of something that was caused typically by a negligent thing. That's why you're typically doing a cost recovery.
Okay.
For instance, Cal Fire does a civil cost recovery, is very robust program for those people like, I think from PG&E to Joe Blow doing something that causes a 2,000 acre, 10,000 acre fire because they were mowing grass and people would hit, so
Yeah.
they have those mechanisms in place, but I would see for the fire district, that would be a clean example of where the district could say, hey, due to these issues and it cost us all this extra money, we're now gonna, vote this, civil cost recovery item, and then the fire chief and his legal counsel, and with legal counsel could determine, okay, we're gonna, bill.
Thank you.
How does this is cover Placerville as well? They have to follow by, so once we put this
The
in,
entire
so
district.
the whole. Just our district covers, does it also cover Diamond Springs then?
So Diamond Springs is going through the same process. So
Okay.
I will pass an ordinance as well, for, and right now they mirror each other. There is one difference, one section of difference in the Diamond Springs version versus this one. And that has to do with, elevations over 4,500 feet. Since they don't have that, it's excluded from their ordinance, but that is related to protections, for propane tanks and propane-based systems up in those elevations due to snow hazards, snow and ice hazards. And those are consistent regionally. The ones that are being proposed are what is being used in those elevations in Placer County, and it also is what's also being used in the Tahoe Basin in El Dorado County. So it's not unique that we're applying it, it's just that we decided to include it in this because we have areas that have consistent snow that doesn't melt in between storms.
The main bones of the fire code is pretty much all the agencies, like the Delaware County, they're going through and adopting. Because every so many, every single year you have to re-adopt. So base plate's there, but then what Chief Gansky's saying is we have some unique things, like you said, with the elevation example. So for the most part, throughout the county, that this code will be very similar. Right?
So, but it basically affects new construction the most. Basically, if you already have a violation based on this, it just says they're grandfathered in some sense, or no?
Yeah, there's no, if there's tenant improvement or if there's any kind of new construction within the property, then it would apply. There is an exception to that, which is the new wildland urban interface code portion. So as part of this new, the code itself that the State Fire Marshal's Office has proposed, they're moving components that relate to wildland urban interface protection, the building standards for building within those areas. It used to be in chapter 7A of the building code, and they're moving all of that into the fire code. So there is some retroactive nature of that portion of it, but that's the only part of it that has that stipulation there. And that's just to address the increasing wildfire threats that our communities are facing, just to try to limit conflagration, especially within communities that are vulnerable to wildfire.
So we'll, moving out of planning, so I recently moved a propane tank down from county planning. They came out and inspected it. Does that mean then the fire department will come out and inspect those now? Or will it still stay with the county?
There are certain aspects that the fire district inspects. And so even on like a residential construction in general, there's a large portion of it that is just handled at the building department or building official. So primarily what we inspect during residential projects are things like the access to the property itself, so driveways and surfaces to be able to get to the corners of the buildings so that we can provide fire suppression as needed. For water supply and the selection of sources that may be applicable to that project, whether it be a tank or a hydrant, or otherwise determination of fire sprinklers, and if those are required, and then setbacks. And the setbacks have a lot more to do with that 7A old requirement, which will now be within the California Fire Code of providing less fire prone materials for areas that encroach on neighbors' properties. That's generally the approach we take on that. So that's what the fire department focuses on. Everything else to do with the construction, the building department generally handles. And I said big asterisk because there are different systems that different agencies and entities have a piece of. This goes for commercial too, so this also applies to things like fuel dispensing facilities like a gas station, or for larger commercial assembly buildings, and those sources as well. So, which is why we have different local amendments to address some of those hazards that we've seen within our area.
I mean, this was just really discussed, this is just the first reading of this. We're gonna have to.
There's no action.
Okay, any other comments?
I've got many, I don't know if I should take them offline, because some of them, and this goes for our state council, it's like these, zoning benefits that have one way in, one way out. And then reading it here, it's like, I think I'm reading, what it sounded like is that there'll be a limitation on those types of, developments. It's, dead end fire apparatus, access roads, and driveways, and so forth. So am I interpreting that correctly, or?
So those that like the dead end fire access roads, those have more to do with the access on a specific property than they do communal resources like streets and roads. So the streets and roads are still going to be those decisions were governed by the transportation bodies of both the city and the county themselves to assure that those are appropriate for the project. So we basically take it from where the property line is inward to make sure that there are appropriate fire lanes and access, or roads that stretch to the areas that we need to have access to. The driveways are appropriate width and height that our fire units can get there and do something if there's an emergency.
A lot of that's already been in code for a long time, the public interest code from G90. So those address things like driveways, how wide, steep, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
And please, Hammerhead.
Yeah, already such a.
When you get to public comment, I do have a public comment that I received by email that we'll make sure you get to that. But take that at that time. Or
On this one, the next one, on street, is there a public comment on this?
On the ordinance.
on the ordinance.
Yeah, we should. Look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on it. Let's take a look at it.
And just to note that this public comment is from this public comment is from Ron Phillips, and he's a resident of the Georgetown area, but he does development services within our jurisdiction. Assist developers with their projects. And otherwise provides fire safe plans within our area as well. So that's why he's providing some comment on our proposal. And El Dorado Hills, they're a little bit ahead of us on the cycle, so they received the same comments and they did take some action based off of your recommendations. So it's something that I can discuss with you what actions El Dorado Hills did with that, or we can work on it offline and bring it at the next reading. So I don't consider any of these proposed changes to be significant enough to delay the second reading. As far as like if we were to make any changes, that it would be substantial enough that we would have to like hold an additional hearing for this. But just for anybody who's listening online, there were comments that were submitted on section 202 involving driveways, section 503.2.5, including buildings and facilities, the section 903.6 that discusses where fire sprinklers are required in the existing buildings and structures. Again, that has more to do with, when a tenant improvement occurs. The 903.6, where fire sprinklers are required in existing buildings again. And, chapter 61, section 6104, dot 2, which is the maximum capacity within, established limits for, storage of flammable gases, so for propane. And appendix D, which is a section to grade, and appendix, sorry, D 103.2 in respect to grade, 103.5 in respect to gates, and 103.6.1 on road widths. For just one comment on the sections for appendix D, we did add an additional width, and this message doesn't apply to what we added, but we added an additional width for aerial fire apparatus roads to accommodate the footprint of our ladder truck. So that is a proposal that's in the new ordinance being proposed, but it's not a question of stock.
Well, what do you think the best way to do this? See what Eldorado Hills did and see if it applies to us. What do you suggest?
I could certainly provide you with the actions. There are several action items that they decided to take no action on, that they're gonna leave it the same. And then there are a couple that they decided that they're going to go with the recommendation of. So I could go over the ones that where they're providing a recommendation, if you'd like.
Well, are any of these that he's recommending, you think we should do besides the one that Eldorado Hills? Are there any of these that you think we should adopt?
I did look at the document, and I feel that the recommendations that Eldorado Hills is taking is reasonable in this situation. And that, a lot of the areas that are being discussed these are items that were adopted in the last fire code cycle revision. So this isn't necessarily a change. And it has more to do with, like some of the distances have more to do with like the width of a road, like the section 103.6.1. There is just a difference between 26-foot versus 28-foot roads, those items. So they're not substantial differences. What we're requiring is just a little bit wider road in these instances. So what he's proposing is not asking us to increase that. It's more to decrease our restriction out there.
So does the fire district that he resides in make these changes?
I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure the development that's occurring up there, it's substantial enough
He doesn't
to
reside in our district.
He's in Georgia.
adopt this.
I'm curious thoughts, but, maybe that's something, not to delay the process, but, in between working on the second reading is, if you guys are in agreement that, Chief Vance could come back, with the fire chief to suggest some things that are going to do, especially if they kind of vetted it through and it makes sense for us, then I mean, it'd not be bad. And if there's anything of value within this document, okay, but if not, then just got to rattle in the can, and I'd rather go, and I think it shows there's some lockstep. I mean, the Hills has made some changes. We find them favorable, we make those changes, and it kind of gives it a more universal look at the ordinance.
Yeah, and like I said, I could tell you which ones that Eldorado Hills has decided to make a change based off of. That's pretty short, so if you wish.
Yeah, you might as well do it.
Got it.
Not gonna do that.
So the changes that they decided to do based off of this input was to adopt the driveway definition, which is at section 202. And it just adds some increased, basically about a half a sentence more on the end of that, was what the recommendation was compared to what the,
On the grade of the drawing?
so section 202, so it should be like the first item on that letter. And it has more to do with just aligning with Title 14, a definition that's proposed there. So it is beneficial to us because it aligns with the definition. Elmore Hills decided to not take any action on, section 503.2.5. They did take they are amending their recommendation for 505.1.1, which is address illumination. And that's to add industrial buildings to the definition of that, or for the application of that. So we said commercial, it's a catch-all. But we're commercial and industrial, just to make sure that even in business parks, that if we have the option, and again, this is not retroactive, but it's if we have the option to add illuminated signs to areas, it just makes it easier for us to find these locations at nighttime during emergency. Especially in areas where we require addressing on the building as opposed to out on the street, like a lot of residential properties. There was no action taken on 903.6. On down to 6104.2, the LPG maximum limits, they did not take any action on that, because they have some instances where that applies. That's why some of these code issues were developed. The grade compensation for, so appendix D 103.2 for grade, the amendment has more to do with, so the fire code itself describes a 10% grade as a maximum, although there is a ability for the local fire code official to make a determination. But we had changed that in previous additions to 15.9%, and that was to reflect the county standard on roads and grades. So I think that the idea behind that was we don't necessarily, like, we want to basically tell people that we're okay with going to the county's maximum. But it doesn't need to be that way. They can enforce that on their own. The county can enforce that grade issue on their own. And we can leave the 10%, which is the fire code edition. My recommendation, we can leave that as a maximum in our standard. In fact, adopting a 15.9% grade is actually, I don't less restrictive than the fire code. So if we were to say adopt a 9% or 5% or 0% grade, that'd be a lot more restrictive on the project. So I would say that old amendment actually didn't even meet the intent of the fire code. So that's, again, why that section is being recommended. The
engines type ones.
Yeah. And going down to the 10%, that does provide us with some ability to look at our apparatus and to determine whether or not we need to keep our grades.
It's a lower data.
Appendix D 103.5 was the gate width minimum, and the agreed upon standard in the area has been to have 15-foot wide gates as a requirement, and that was. There just seems to be no backing behind that of like any recommendation in code or practice. It's not like we have 13-foot wide apparatus and we need mirrors for 15 feet. We don't necessarily get like snow accumulation on one side of the driveway or the other. So basically going with the 14-foot gate width was recommended, and Eldorado Hills decided to go with that standard. So again, that's something where even our local ordinance, or should say ordinance, local policies, when it comes to like gate standard or our local standards, sometimes they need revision too. So this is a good opportunity for revisiting that section there as well. And I wouldn't say that would make any operational difference to us to go from a 15-foot to a 14-foot gate minimum. And that's across one roadway. So one, if we had, for example, they had a 20-foot wide required roadway for the fire code for fire apparatus access for 2 lanes, the gate would need to be wider than that anyways. So this is considering like a 1-lane road access there. The appendix D 103.6.1 and 103.6.2 for fire lane width reduction, they did not make any amendments to that section either. And then the the appendix D 104.4 for circumferential fire apparatus access, they also did not make any amendments to that, and they noted that there's language there that says when required by the fire code official, that provides enough flexibility in approving those types of projects. Again, with circumferential driveways being providing us an ability to get behind buildings or to have a travel path around the building in a certain direction if necessary, so we don't log jam all of our apparatus in there. Or we don't have access to certain portions of the building, so that's the intent of those. So, and those were the recommendations that, Elroy Hills, or actions, should say, that Elroy Hills made based off of the recommendations. And I have no objection to that. I think that, again, to keep things fairly standard, that we would be amenable to those changes as well.
Yeah, those are all reasonable.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
So, but this was the first reading, do we have to then make, we don't have to do anything, but we could adopt those for the second reading, or do we not?
We can provide direction to staff.
Yeah.
Based on Chief Agansky's recommendations.
So, we need a motion to do?
Yeah.
No,
No, it's.
Just directions.
Providing. Correct.
Yep.
so I think we bring the right directions for Chief Pagansky that adopt the Eldorado Hills changes to this first reading for the next reading.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. On to plan review contract for leasing.
There's a common thing you made.
Do we take?
I was gonna say, it was a prevention.
I thought
Did you take?
we had public comment before.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay, okay, we went down along, we can go back and ask if there's public comment on this first reading of ordinance 2025-1-2025 fire code adoption. Or anyone online?
I don't have anybody's hand raised.
Yeah, I think we did that. Okay. And there's no one out in the audience, so moving on then, right?
Mhm.
To administrative plan review contractor for lead agency. That is some.
Right, so the item that you have in front of you today is, has the subject of plan review contractor. And the Fire Prevention Bureau currently uses a third-party consultant for plan review to support staff capacity and to ensure timely permit processing. Our current reviewer will retire at the end of this year. To maintain continuity of services, staff evaluated qualified firms with demonstrated experience in fire code plan review for public agencies, and after review, Four Leaf Incorporated was identified as a highly qualified firm with extensive experience providing plan review services to fire agencies in local jurisdictions across California. The key benefits of Four Leaf Incorporated services include ICC certified reviewers with California Fire Codes specialization, and the ICC stands for International Code Council. They're the ones who develop the codes. Scalable services to meet workload demands, competitive hourly rates consistent with industry standards, capability for electronic plan submittal and review, and did include the full proposal from Four Leaf Incorporated. The contract costs are offset by plan review revenue collected through the district's fee schedule. The costs are borne by applicants and do not impact the district's general operating budget. The staff recommend that the board of directors authorize the fire chief this need to execute a contract with Four Leaf Incorporated for fire plan review and as needed consulting services as outlined in the attached proposal. Just one item to note on this is that the plans that come through to our agency, we collect fees at that time, and those fees cover the cost of the plan review. We do not pay our plan reviewer any set amount of money. It's just based off the work that they do for us, and paid off of the money that we collect from them. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on that item.
Is there any public comment on this item? Okay. So I have so they have local experience. I mean, there's a list there in one of the pages on City of West Sacramento, Davis, Rock, Sparks. Have we contacted any of them to see how they like this service or besides any reviews of it?
People talk about.
Okay.
So in my previous life, I worked with these guys a couple of different times in different places and they do excellent. That's been our experience. They've done excellent. I would fully support.
The only thing I picked up on, hold on, Director Gilchrist here, I actually read something down to the nitty gritty. And under the leadership, the contract, the South Placer Fire District would be managed. It's like, oops.
on my list.
Oh, see it? Beat you to it. Just happened to pick that, I was like, ooh.
We would make sure that got.
Yeah.
There aren't that many, plan review firms locally. So the situation that we're in is that we currently do have a contract with services, through, Interwest, which is a very large, plan review corporation. And we've used them, pretty extensively in the past. Once we became involved with Diamond Springs, Fire, they used a plan reviewer that was Cheryl Dominich. She worked for Interwest and, there were a couple of, persons who departed that agency. And when she left there, that's when Diamond Springs had switched to them previously. So they had very good experience with her. We had, we have personal contact with the plan reviewer. So it's not necessarily something that like our plans are getting passed around to multiple reviewers around the department. And, we don't have any like input on the project at that point. So being able to have that personal touch has been valuable for us. We also is that we're able to be more responsive in those situations as well. So, to be, again, perfectly candid, we do have a contract with Interwest. So if our work spills over, we can always give them work out of our workload. But Cheryl's been able to manage everything that we've had at this point. So she again is looking to reduce her work from basically this point forward, so that we don't have projects that go to her that she does the first review on, and then she retires by the time we need it to get reviewed by somebody else. Because then that new firm would basically have to re-review the plans to see what our plan reviewer was discussing. So we're trying to eliminate that as much as possible. So this 4-Leaf incorporated some of the same reviewers that left at the same time that Cheryl did, formed this other company, this 4-Leaf. Augie is mentioned in there. He was a reviewer that our department had a lot of interaction with. He worked at our other corrected entity, and we've had good experience with them. A little bit of benefit to going to a company like this is that there is a little bit of redundancy. So Cheryl's a one-stop shop. So like she was on vacation this last week and we had projects that people were eager to get looked at. And so having this would mean that there is some redundancy within the office, but also a lot of expertise to be tapped into as well. They offer a number of other services that some fire agencies take advantage of, like in specialized inspections, developing of certain prevention type plans. So those are things that we might be interested, or we might be interested in directing maybe a project towards. So sometimes there are projects that exceed the scope of our local knowledge due to complexity or technology or anything like that. So sometimes we require plans to be developed or to have a different analysis done. And so that's something that we could do through our firm as well when it becomes necessary. So that's really the reason why we're recommending this company. They are definitely reasonable compared to our existing, so I would say comparable for that. We did seek a clarification. They do not have a minimum amount that they charge, like a minimum amount of hours that they charge on there. So they just charge per hour for the projects that they do for us.
So basically the cost is paid for by the person applying for this. So it's whatever the cost is, that's what we're talking about. We don't have a surcharge on top of that, it's just the cost going through.
We can, so there is a mechanism for us to provide a surcharge if the complexity of the project exceeds what would be considered a general plan review, so, and the, most of what we've done, like we have, I asked our administrative assistant whether or not we had any projects that had gone over. In fact, some that have gone close, but we haven't had any that have gone over yet of what we've collected. We do need to realize that we bake in some inspection fees upon that too. So that's just something to be aware of. But the amount of cost that's associated with our current projects is not extreme where we're taking it. So if it was something like right now we have a battery storage thing that's being proposed, that would be something where it might just become an extensive plan review in some way or fashion. So that's something where the individual project, if it does reach a certain level, we would just tell them that they're exceeding that and that they're going to have additional costs if they want to proceed forward. So they would still bear those costs. But it would be, they would basically just get the bill out rate of hourly would have cost us just to pass through.
If you look at that, back to one of the original questions, if you look at the collection of those departments, very diverse. So you've got everything from residential communities for the most part, with light commercial to whole cities, but everything industrial and everything. So they're used to seeing a lot of everything from simple to complex. I think that's key. So if you do get the odd complex one coming in, they've got the expertise to do it. Thereby, it typically makes the plan review go faster because they're not going back and having to research stuff and all that. They've seen it.
Oh, yeah, they did the Apple complex.
Yeah.
Guys would,
I think what you will find with this company is the depth of their experts. I think you mentioned it already, the timeliness that they have the ability to get projects done. And that's huge for the customers, and everybody that I've ever run across with this company, their cultural competence on what they do is deep experience. I'm actually glad to see they're doing this. They're an excellent company.
Yeah, just to speak on that, there are other companies like the other company that we have an agreement with who, because we don't know the names and faces there, they could be fresh out of, they just got their certificate, to, again, having, 19 or 30 years of experience doing this in the industry. And that experience pays off a lot because sometimes we'll rely on these third-party reviewers to say, just to ask them and say, hey, what has been your experience in other areas compared to this? Like especially if there's alternates being suggested or anything like that, because this isn't the first one of these plans that has come across their desk, where it may be the first that's come across our county in the time that we've been here. So that's again something that it's a benefit of having a third-party reviewer do. It also provides us some shield against some of the things that generally occur in small towns sometimes with projects that are being proposed, so that we're making sure that we're building safe facilities for our area. They're safe for our firefighters and safe for the occupants that will be in them as well. That's ultimately the goal of us going through this process and approving these projects.
I mean, I read through part of it, I go, wow, who does El Dorado Hills use? Do they use this? Anybody know?
Sure. They do a lot of their plan review in-house.
Because they have staff that do it.
Yeah, but can you have that expertise in house?
You may or may not. In the past, they had some guys like Fort Dukes and all that had extensive experience in that, but this is a better way. I mean, it's out of your hair. And it's not time limiting for our folks.
Benefit financially to this is, A, we're not staffing it, B, we're not gonna incur the unfunded liability for those resources if we have to do that. and their clientele pedigree, I think is pretty strong.
No, and the cost is passed on, it's not, we don't have any
Right.
proper cost.
Yeah.
And our staff do review, certain plans. So, just depending on the scope of the project, if it's something that's fairly straightforward, then our staff will take on that project. You know, it is something that, these plan reviews, you know, to do things like measure sprinkler spacing in the building and to make sure that the corridors are the right width, and the travel distances, and some of these things that are more of a process, especially in buildings where there's a higher risk to the occupants and honestly, a higher risk to us as the agency who's approving it. It makes a lot more sense to utilize that third party reviewer. But yeah, we do some of those services in-house. In fact, this week, 3 of us were in plan review classes to learn how to be more proficient at certain aspects of plan review. So, we generally look at those plans that come through. Because if we do hire the third party, then there is costs associated with that. But in that, there's also savings of staff hours.
Right.
So it's, we just weigh them as they come through on whether or not our staff have the capacity to do that, or it'd be better for that third party to review.
Yeah, I mean, just one complex, something going in. I mean, even if we say a big box goes in, that's eats up hours and hours and hours. These guys, that's the one you punt off to this company and something like that. A big box, they be done, quick turnaround, and we're not spending a ton of money on it because we're not having to go research stuff because they have the experience. They've been there, done that, they do the code, probably at the top of their head. And so that's huge, especially being a commensurate cost of what we're paying now. That's a gold mine right there.
Yeah, it's not an exclusive contract, so we don't have to send them all the business, and we don't have to send any business, but it's essentially a retainer for, by having a contract, it's a retainer for services that we get.
So are you mostly doing like residential and like, let's say, commercial spaces where somebody's putting in a fire suppression system for their Ansel system and things like that?
That is,
So most of the reviews that the third party reviewer is doing are commercial based plans. The county themselves do a lot of the residential plans to include things like residential fire sprinkler systems. Those are part of their purview under the building code authority. Yeah, it's mostly either complex tenant improvements, so like a big box store that's converting space, or generally anything that's converting to an assembly or a restaurant or anything like that, where there might be some more technical challenges associated with the change of occupancy. Those are things that would generally go through that third party review.
So, we need a motion to correction here that we sign the contract. Unless there's another comment. I have a motion to, is there, I didn't see any, do we have to sign it? I didn't see this, was there a signature?
I think we're asking the chief to.
Sign it. Okay, we have a motion to have Chief Cordero sign the plan review contract with Form Inc.
I'll make that motion.
Second. With the correction of, those corrections of using the correct name.
Right.
Sure that.
I'm on sign on that.
Signing on the.
Yeah.
Hey, you can sign that.
they're paying for all of our plan reviews. Keep paying them to them.
So we need a vote.
Yes, Director Kajman.
Aye.
Director Renton.
Aye.
Director Rogan.
Aye.
Director Edmiston.
Aye.
Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Item E, administrative assumption of responsibility for real estate inspection.
All right, so my last item.
Most we've ever had the black belt in front of us.
Pretty busy.
So this item is the assumption of responsibility for real estate inspections. Just to one comment, this agenda item went before the Diamond Springs board as well as the previous item. So just so you're aware that they reviewed that both of these items. The Diamond Springs, El Dorado Fire Protection District and the El Dorado County Fire Protection District currently participate in defensible space inspections required under Assembly Bill 38 of 2029. for their residential or real estate transactions in state responsibility area, high or very high fire hazard severity zones, as well as very high fire severity zones in local responsibility areas. These inspections verify compliance with Public Resource Code, section 4291, prior to a property transfer in a real estate transaction. Real estate inspections within our jurisdiction are currently shared between Diamond Springs and County Fire staff, CAL FIRE, and the El Dorado County Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience, or OWAPR. Over the past year, 677 inspections were conducted within both districts, with Diamond Springs and County Fire staff completing 426 of these inspections already. Given our substantial contribution to this, the staff proposed that the district assume full responsibility for all the real estate defensible space inspections. The transition would streamline service delivery, allowing CAL FIRE and OWAPR inspectors to focus on project areas and proactive inspection programs that align with their mission and resolve inconsistencies related to the district recovering costs for these services in the state responsibility area. Diamond Springs and County Fire already have trained personnel and established procedures to perform these inspections effectively. The costs can be fully recovered through escrow fees based on previously established rates, resulting in no impact on the district's general operating budget. Staff recommend the board authorize district personnel to assume responsibility for all real estate defensible space inspections within the districts until the temporary hold on cost recovery within the state responsibility area. With that, I would take any questions.
Ready, public comment on that item?
I'll just add in, I think the board probably called several months ago, we put a hold on that because as these came into effect, you had some differences with OWAPR doing inspections, CAL FIRE inspections, NEST inspections, some charged, some didn't. So we put a hold on that to kind of clean this process up. Our prevention bureau has been working on, getting a true count, and this is something we can take on and handle. They feel they can take on and handle that, so we move forward. Basically reinstating the same structure.
And just to provide some clarity on it, we were approached to do this. CAL FIRE actually approached us to see if we were willing to take on more, if not all, of our inspections. Because they have other program areas that they need to focus on with their defensible space inspectors as well. So they're they're essentially taking time out of going out and, blanketing areas of defensible space with going out to 1 and 2 residences here and there that are requiring an inspection for the real estate transaction. Again, it'll help them to reallocate their personnel, exclusively to those things and not have to focus on any of these real estate inspections.
So we're gonna be charging a fee to do these?
Yeah, we did charge a fee initially. We do charge a fee currently within the city of Placerville to do the real estate inspections. We're only doing it for the ones that are required for the real estate transactions, as far as the fees that we're charging on these.
I think the issue before was some people were not being charged and we were charged, so.
Yeah, the issue was that they would, the realtor would get, one inspection done by us and one inspection done by CAL FIRE. And CAL FIRE didn't charge, and we did. And so they would say, well, you shouldn't charge me because CAL FIRE is not charging, or they would refuse us booking the inspection because they say, well, we'll just wait for CAL FIRE to do it. So pushing even more back onto CAL FIRE. And this is, again, one of those situations where it's well intended as far as the Assembly bill, the AB 38 that directed this activity to occur, but there wasn't a lot of clear mechanism on how to actually make it take place. When we're not alone in exclusively doing the real estate inspections within our jurisdiction, El Dorado Hills does all of their own in their area, and Cameron Park within the CSD, they do all of their own inspections as well. Both entities charge.
So CAL FIRE is charging now?
No.
No,
They can.
So are they still doing inspections, or are they just saying, we're not gonna do it, we want you to?
So that's the intent of this, is that any of the requests that come through as a inspection for this, to fulfill this AB 38 requirement, would just come to us, so they would be out of the business.
Okay, so no request would land on Cal Fire's desk.
Correct.
What about OWA?
So they would also not do them in our area.
Okay, so we would be the exclusive ones to do the inspection for all the real estate sales.
Yeah, and there are, you know, they will continue to do some outside of our area. There are definitely jurisdictions that don't have any staff to do these inspections. So, there are those jurisdictions where they're finding themselves still going, like the Office of Wildfire Preparedness and Resilience. They do a lot up in the North County area, and they also do a lot surrounding the Tahoe Basin. So it's a long drive from Placerville to go do one of these inspections, but you know, so for us being able to, again, to take over our area, we're eliminating that conflict. And again, we're freeing up their staff to do their own things, or to take on those other work there.
So do we need additional people to do it, or could anybody? Does it have to be somebody in your department, or other firefighters can go out? And who's gonna do that inspection? Do you have the personnel to do them all? Considering how many there are?
Currently, yeah, we've done just over 400 of them ourselves this last year. So the increase that we're looking at is about a 200 per year increase. So that's definitely something that we can absorb currently. You know, I think that we can have discussions about some capacity further down the road, but we do have the staff, the ability to currently manage that workload.
We'll be charging you for inspection.
So we charge $205 per inspection.
I think that was via Nexus study, I believe, right, or no?
I'm not certain to how that exact cost was derived. I know that there is some connection between the rate that we normally charge for an inspection fee through our fire prevention bureau. So like we're going out to inspect to do a required inspection at a facility. That fee is the same that we charge as to this residence that's requesting an inspection as well. There's an additional amount, and that seems to coincide with what the cost recovery provider that we use charges to process that and to collect the fee on our behalf.
So we're charging the same thing we do when we go and inspect apartment buildings for fire extinguishers. It's gonna be that same amount.
Yeah, essentially with the service fee to cover the collection of the fees.
Unless they pay for, because I think we collect them right then, don't we? When you go out and do it.
I think
We
it goes through
invoice
study.
them.
Oh, we invoice them, okay. And that fee is added on there.
And we're completely open to talking about fees and how those are collected and everything. But that's, I think, a whole nother conversation.
No, I'm okay with all the fees, as long as we're collecting the money.
Yeah, and how I equate it to is that like when you have to do a real estate transaction, you know, you need to get the termite inspector out, you need to get, you know, somebody to come and test the well and to do all these other things, and those aren't included with anything. And so there is definitely a cost of us doing business. You know, we're using our department vehicle to drive out there, to come back, staff hours, time to produce the report, the technology to be able to transfer the report to the requesting party in a timely fashion. Those are all things that we have to support to you. So, you know, it's again, we're not alone in this in collecting fees. We initially did it, and the only reason we paused was because somebody was doing it for free.
Exactly. No, I think it's definitely a good thing to do. And it's an important part of selling your home, that it's a defensible space and everything else. Yeah, I mean, in City of Plaza, when you're on a private sewer line, you have to make sure the whole private sewer line works. You have to do an inspection all the way down, but you know, when you go on the line. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So this is just one other one, selling a piece of property. You gotta have a defensible space and. make sure there's no, wood piles against your building.
When would this go into effect?
We haven't determined that, so as far as the assumption of the responsibility, we probably would just do them as soon as we're able to make that change. As far as billing for it, one of the concerns that we have is just assuring that it's well known enough out there that we are resuming billing for this. So we want to just have enough time to contact the local realty groups and to make them aware of this this change and allow them to, you know, ask any questions or provide any clarity on that. Because the biggest question we get from realtors when we do assess it, because again, we are assessing this within the city of Placer, is for like, how do we pay, who pays for this? Who we send a bill to? And so we say, well, just however you process other things through your escrow is how you need to do this. So just making sure that when they contact us, that they provide us with the right information right away. That's another piece of it. It's just making sure that it isn't, it's as streamlined as a process as possible. The bill gets sent to the right person right away.
So we collecting those through the escrow company? So we're not collecting directly from the homeowner that's selling the home at that point, we're waiting for it to close?
So,
I'm just asking.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm a little bit blind in this area. I just know that we use a third-party cost recovery system. It's the same one that we use for when we have persons who have a traffic accident in our area that aren't from our area. So that same fire recovery company, but it's just generally based off of what information they provide us. Sometimes it goes to the realtor, sometimes it goes to the homeowner. We essentially just have an email and we send it all to one.
So you should let the board of realtor. We do it.
Yeah, EdCar would be a little good one, Colorado County Association.
Previously, when we were charging our point of contact, whoever requested it, that became the point of contact, whether it was a homeowner or the real estate agent. And that's who we get the billing information, or a third party biller to handle that. The behind the scenes on the escrow piece and then how the realtor recoups that funding, really it's for them to iron out. And so, you know, my recommendation, I think we should move forward with this. I think we should send information out to the realtors, maybe like a September 1st start date, which gives them, you know, a week and a half, you know, to start in our jurisdiction.
So it'd be retroactive, so if somebody's in a process now, they got a inspection from CAL FIRE, we require now they got a clean inspection, it's good for 6 months.
No, and we just get inspections based off of that. So if it's after 6 months, then they would request a new inspection. So when we only bill at the time of when we complete the inspection. So if their inspection's good for 6 months, then we would, and they sell between then.
Then you wouldn't
Then they would.
retro back and say, hey, now you gotta do our inspection.
Yeah, there'd be no retroactive, but it would just be when we get a inspection request, if we send an inspector out, we charge for that.
The title companies are the ones that handle the escrow process.
Yep.
So it's the title company, I think, is some sort of a contact or heads up to them. I think if you go to EdCar and let's say, who are the title companies you need to contact, I think that covers the basis as saying, hey, this fee will be recovered. How it should be applied to the escrow sheet for recovery. All billing and invoicing, separate things, but I think they need to make sure that it's on their punch list that it's gonna be done.
And what complicates that is if that's great within the county, and if they use an title company outside of the county, that's really muddy because, for instance, I had a family member bought a house in Placer County recently, and they called like, hey, I need this industrial space, what's the deal there? And every county is different with what they require and so forth. And so then it's like, well, contact the CAL FIRE station and all of them have a quota of how many they have to do as part of the governor's initiative. So we'll be happy to get another one and, you know, check off the box. But then in Placer County, they said, oh no, if you're to real estate, now you have to go through this county's process. And so it's very confusing because each area is doing it differently. So And then they go and use a title company in Sacramento versus Mercer County, they don't know about it, so that's where it gets kind of muddy and confusing. That was just some personal experience recently, because they're asking me, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, you're the fire guy, you should know these things. So, but it's very complex, as everybody's doing.
Yeah, we get requests too from people who are planning on selling too, or we just want to see where we are, for the purpose of a real estate transaction. And so, you know, there are a lot of variables there, so.
I believe EdCar is the key cornerstone to it, and EdCar, you guys call brokers. I would assume 99% of the brokers are members of EdCar, and the brokers are the ones that have to adhere and make sure they're following the process. And so EdCar's got to be the starting point, I think, to say this is going to be coming, this is what's coming.
And it's been our experience with the larger, realtor groups, they don't have issue with it, it's the independent who tend to struggle with the idea. And, you know, so again, it's just getting that information out there. The time that I've been in the prevention bureau, I only had one complaint regarding it, within the, local responsibility area, but that's an established procedure policy, and it says right on our request form that it's gonna be charged and that there's an amount that's listed there too, so it's pretty black and white in that situation, so.
I think if you just tell EdCar it's AB 38, this is the charge. They know,
Yeah, they know the inspection,
they know the inspection.
okay, they know the inspection.
Right, okay, so, we need to approve. I have a motion to approve, assumption of responsible for real estate inspection.
I'll make a motion to approve the assumption of responsibility for real estate inspection.
Second. Still do something. No, it's all of us together. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Board matters. On to item 10, committee report. Standing committee, budget and finance, we just had an informal meeting with Ken, and that was about it. On, thinking of the chief of responsibilities. I'm glad he's coming aboard.
Do that.
Item B, communications.
Communications, we met last Friday, on two things to bring up. Talked about the finance campaign update, EMS fire suppression campaign update, Diamond Spring taxation, newsletter. The two things I would bring to the board were, relative to a compliance requirement on the website for all of our PDF pages. If you go to the website, pull down, say the agenda, or add part of the board packet, you'll see a new AI type interface that attempts to put it into compliance for basically those that are visually impaired. And it brings it to more of a verbal textual articulation of a graph or whatnot so they can read it. We're communications manager has we have a free trial through Streamline, our web service provider, through the end of the year at November. And our early cost estimates are about $400 to $800 per month to ensure that we are in compliance.
Oh,
And part of the concern we have with risk reward is some lawyer gonna say, I'm gonna sue you if you don't do it, so do you do this to avoid that lawsuit and go forward. If we reduce our number of online PDF documents, I think it was 10,000, that's where we go to the lower end of that cost per month. I think we're around 20,000 now, and that's where it's coming in at 800. Mark, did I miss anything?
No, it took us a while. I mean, she did a great job in educating us to this whole thing, but this whole compliance thing now is just, it's insane. And it really, harkens back to that we were talking about in Risk Wood, is, remember when ADA went in and had those people go around and suing
Yeah.
and shutting down places? This is the same kind of thing. Somebody's gonna be savvy enough, and it's gonna be super easy. They just get on their phone, their computer, and they, yep, you're not compliant, I'm suing you, and so we figured, okay, if we can get this compliance, tool, and it's gonna cost us $4,800 a month, or to $800 a month. Yeah, it ends up being potentially up to around 10 grand a year. But is it worth that versus whatever they're suing the crap out of us for our website not being compliant? It's insane, but hey, we're telling
It's
you,
not
right?
cheap. Wow, that seems really expensive.
I did a lot of research, I don't
A lot
know.
of research. So the number of players that I understand out there are very, very few.
So there's
Is
thousands of
that?
Yeah,
websites.
good business startup.
Yeah, and part of this has to do with the fact that we use an entity that, that they sell us an interface of a website. They don't provide us with, we don't have full control over it. So having, different applets and plugins within the website, there is some benefit to using a product that they provide because it's seamless. There might be other avenues out there to deal with this compliance, but to be honest, this is the first tool that I've seen that looks really good. To highlight the conversation a little bit, there is a break between how many pages that you host and how many are made accessible by this tool, and that determines a price break. I did a little bit more research. We're about 12,000 pages, so if we reduced ours by 2,000 pages, we'd be in that $400 bracket as opposed to 800. So that's some cost savings that we can look at. We can also look at what do we really need to be doing for archiving? Does everything need to be available online? Or can we decide that we're only going to keep things for a certain amount of time? There's not a whole lot of guidance out there on the compliance aspect of that, as much as there is to make documents available like prior to public meetings and during times when documents are being considered by the body. So, just looking at all of that, it's just a matter of what we put out there. Do we want to have a library of documents that people can look at to do research for extended periods of you go back 5 years, 10 years into documents and look at those documents. So if that's the case, then we just need to make sure that we have that everything's accessible. So this tool again, it uses AI to look at the document to make it right for a screen reader. Something that is very challenging for persons who use screen readers to do is to analyze something like a map or a graph or chart. So some of those other graphics, they want to know things like, if this is showing a map, do I live in that area that's affected? If we're talking about something emergent like an evacuation, they need to be able to look at that. But also just call data and statistics for certain areas. Like even just the proposed mapping that we're doing for the board directors, the different boundaries for each director area. Those are things where they might want to say, well, where do I live on that map? So something that's possible in this program is that they can actually contact anybody 24 hours a day in the service who will help them to interpret the data that's being provided there too. It's a system that is used by visually impaired, like this organization is well trusted by persons with visual disabilities. And so basically they utilize that service and then they can ask questions for 30 minutes about a specific map or graphic or topic and get really 24-hour service through that. So that's something that's available through this as well. There's a certain amount of indemnification that also comes with it by subscribing to it, against any claims that would come in about us not being accessible. So there's definitely benefits to it. One of the things that we're doing is our communications group are going to get some additional information from the go streamline themselves to just better understand this product, this concept. So something that will occur hopefully this month.
Seems to me that we should have all the current data available to be read, that we would archive stuff. And this should be a point where you can get it under the 10,000. I think the historical stuff that doesn't have to be, people are, they want to come research that, that's a whole different thing. But I think the current data is all down, so I think we can get it down. I'm okay with it coming for the $400 a month too, because the cost of getting sued is who knows what. But they know that this product meets that requirement, that we have, this is the
It
product.
seems to.
It's such a new thing, and I mean, it hasn't been tested yet. But I just see that once people figure it out, there's gonna be a flurry of these losses, because it's the easy pickings, I mean, just like the ADA stuff was, you know? And, I think protect ourselves, and we discussed a lot of strategies as far as, you know, what do we put behind a firewall, like a better term, that doesn't come under this, that the public looks at it, reducing those documents. For instance, we talked about SOGs. SOG, yeah, it's great, cool, public can look at it, I mean, we care about it, but that's something that definitely doesn't, you know, cost us, put that where our folks can access it, for obvious reasons, but the general public doesn't really need it, and that'll reduce it, bring it back down to that, hopefully $400 a month. And then we were looking into how long we have to keep online, like our agenda or board minutes and packets and all that.
7 years, what is it, 3 to 7 years, and what's?
How many years?
Well, if you go to, yeah, generally accepted accounting principle, you keep it 7 years, but I've seen others go. no,
I've seen 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
And that's
Whatever the code says.
But it's not really even clear. That's what everybody's coming up against. I'm definitely for the $400 if it makes sense. It does make sense economically in terms of possible litigation. But I'd restrict it down to more current data. Because that's what people need to know.
We don't have to eliminate the data either.
No, we
If
leave it there.
We can put it in a different area that's not published. So if we had a request for, you know, a board of directors meeting in, 2012, we could still have that information available to produce for the individual. Like we could say, do you want a physical copy of it? Do you want an electronic copy? We can send that to you. If you need assistance with viewing this document, you can come to our office. We can assist you with that, or we can make other arrangements to help make more accessible to you. But, that can all still live online. Just since it's not showing to the public or publicly facing, we're not paying to have the accessibility feature applied to that specific document.
Streamline, has a capability to, partition, what the public sees and what's internally, and that's via an internal login, where you get internal login, get the data, and it's not visible to anyone on the outside. And that way it reduces the number of documents that have to
Be
be
available.
checked for compliance.
Yeah. Okay, we were on the right track.
2 others, based on scheduling and workloads, the communications committee will meet each quarter on the first Monday after the board meeting. Just will help with scheduling and workload, whatnot, so we agree to that. Finance campaign, Director Brent and I are to meet with Dutch soon and go through the outline and to check out what it is should be put into vignettes for the finance campaign.
Right.
In the report.
JPA. It was
There's a JP board meeting next.
on the.
Yeah, next.
We didn't. No, we're on the list, supposed to get that. Well, haven't come out yet. We're in
Let's come out.
there. Okay.
Yeah, like, you get those county fire guys out of here. Invite them.
Oh, no, we're on the list. Okay, ad hoc committees, facilities and equipment.
Let's see, nothing that, last thing I wanted, but I could update us to our, district, and yeah. It's really beneficial type thing about this, so, yeah, nothing else to report on that.
Human resources.
Where are we at with station 19?
Station 19, the crews are gonna be moving back in,
Supposed to be done on Saturday.
yeah, I think it's B shift. So in the next couple of days, it will.
Good, good. I've got like just a couple people. Fire city council things, but yeah. But on the flip side, they'll kill people.
No, I know.
11, but station one.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, DSB ECF annexation working group. Sweet.
We did not meet, in August, our next meeting is September.
Okay, on to correspondence and communications.
We did receive one, kind of last minute written communication, from Sac Metro Fire, and they were thanking us for, our participation with personnel with their vegetation management program, VMP. They did within their, letter from the chief, they noted the wrong crews that were there. So when I sent forward this out to that crew, they reached back, the crews reached back and said, hey, we appreciate that, but it was actually these guys. So I forwarded that, thank you letter on to the correct crew that was there. Great job with assisting with that. And then, within your packet, you'll see the, monthly stats for, engines and medics. Crews remain busy. Happy to answer questions you may have. Staff.
Comment? On fire chief's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few things to update the board on. For the city of Placerville, we have crews that attended the National Night Out event on August 5th. A lot of good interaction with the community, with myself, Chief Gansky, and the other prevention staff, engineering 25, 28 medic units, making our rounds. It's kind of tough because they want us to rotate every 15 to 20 minutes. So that time to get out and start to meet people, it's like, hey, good to see you, gotta go. But we did participate in a nice water balloon toss event up at Cottonwood. Yes, I got very wet, but it was fun. And then for the city council last week at their meeting, they announced the replacement for Cleve Morris, who's retiring, and Dave Warren will be the new city manager. They're working through a transition right now. Cleve, I believe it's August 5th, 4th or 5th, it's his last day. So Dave Warren will be taking over as the city manager. For the JPA, the recruitment working group is continuing to work on the draft job description for the additional administrative staff and EMS officer for the JPA, that we're looking at a contract model similar to what OAS has with OES for those positions. The EMS officer will also be open to the outside, so they'll kind of look at both scenarios for that. Those, the EMS officer job description should be going to the JPA board on their agenda next week. For the district, as we noted, Chief Lohan's retired effective August 8th. I didn't realize that him and they were exactly a month apart, but with that, we moved Captain Ben Anderson into the acting division chief spot. He's battalion 21 on B shift. And again, the reason why we have the acting positions in there is that we need to wait until deputy chief testing is completed, because we go from 9 chiefs down to 7. See how that washes out. That's why we're not making permanent promotions there until after that testing process is done. We recently promoted paramedic Tyler Yost to an engineer. It's on the list. He got promoted to engineer paramedic. We had a meeting last week with EDSO, OES, CAL FIRE, ECC, and Central Dispatch regarding some of the operations with Echo One. There's just been some communication challenges with Echo One, the EDSO helicopters. They've come online. Very productive meeting. It went well. I think for the crews, it will clean up a lot of information. We sent bulletin out to all the personnel, kind of outline the changes that are taking place there. Between use of Echo One and H20 and our HRTs, and that kind of, our HRTs are they're authorized and cleared to train and provide information to ESO on how our HRT program works, but they're not authorized to fly missions with ESO this time. We have 2 members that are assigned to the Gifford Fire and Water Tender 49, although right now they're northbound on I-5 somewhere coming home as of a couple hours ago. We attended the recent change of command ceremony for this year chaplaincy. Congratulations, Dr. Rubin, who's now running that. So very well attended. It was good program they did there. Chief Daniels is assuming responsibility for the fleet for Diamond Springs and ETF. He's working on updating a combined plan, building off what Chief Lohan put together. He will make a draft presentation to the working group at our next working group meeting, and probably get that to the boards after that. We attended the Weber Creek stakeholders meeting on July 26th here in Placerville. It's for the Weber Creek projects. It's taking place via that FEMA grant. It's a $25 million grant that the Whopper has secured. Chief Gallagher and I attended the Taxpayers Association meeting on August 11th to give a presentation to that group on where we're at with our annexation process. We also have some really good Q&A from the group. I would say it's all very positive. It got a little shanghaied by the Cookie Lane project, which really has nothing to do with our annexation, but we answer those questions best we could. Thank you, Director Gilchrist and Director Rutherford from Diamond Springs that attended that. Chief Daniels and Captain Andreas continue to work on our transition from radio mobile over to tablet command for our dispatch and communication. Chief Gallagher and I received several draft options from County GIS for going from 5 district board to 7 divisions. We have a total of 4. We'll be presenting those to the working group on September 3rd for comment consideration, and then come back to this board ultimately for final approval. The job announcement has been flown for the deputy chief position internally. That closed on Friday the 15th, and we're nearing completion on building that testing process, working with Red Hawk right now to secure dates and location. Ideally, be able to use the Red Hawk facilities for that. I believe we had 6 internal candidates that went for that. We also just completed our engineer testing, and that list should be certified here in the next week or 2. Last minute add-ons, we dry hired engine 317 to CAL FIRE this morning, and dry hire is where they come in and basically rent the engine. It doesn't have any of our people on it. They just rent the apparatus. Cost is the same as if we had people on it, used no personnel cost for that, so it doesn't affect our staffing. And then during the meeting, they're going to dry hire engine 372 as well. So we'll have 2 of our engines that are dry hired to CAL FIRE for, so they're moving equipment around right now to make sure we have our other types. That's taking place.
Board comments. Board comments. I just have one, I brought this up to Chief Cordero. In 20 different fire departments charge for lift fees when somebody falls, and they charge you for picking them up. Now, they instituted this up in Reading, and it was supposed to go towards nursing homes, but then they started charging the public. Because nursing homes have people that they don't want to lift the person up because of workman's comp issues, whatever, they've got to call our engine and have our guys go and get the person up. So they were charging for that, but then they started charging the public, and they just rescinded the whole thing. They got so much public outcry for that. But I think it's something that we should look at. Of how many, I mean, I don't know how many, maybe we just need an analysis. How many nursing home lifts do we go to? And they should have the personnel to do it. I'm just looking for another record. Right. Because if we send the engine out, it's different if it's EMS and it's covered. But if it's our engine going out, we can charge for a lift for nursing home. And if there's a lot, if it's a number of them, it's worthwhile doing. But then it's just, and
I haven't done an analysis on it. I would swag in between us and that 1 or 2 days, maybe
1 or 2 a day.
And of those, I would say the majority are probably residents, Escatron type facilities.
So then maybe we just have an analysis for one couple of months, see what it is, how many would go into the nursing home, how many would do it in person, private residence, public. If it's significant, we're going to nursing home, maybe we should charge them. Just an idea. You put some revenue. Or if everybody says, oh, let's not do it. I mean, it's a big expense to send an engine out and everybody to go help with some. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Say, hey, we should do it for the public.
Well, just like going to an ER for
For a birthday call.
Been there, done that.
for a first aid call. Going to an emergency room for a first aid call.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out. They mentioned in the article, there's like 20 fire districts that charge. Sounds like another revenue stream, if it's worthwhile, it's not. I mean, yeah, if we're doing one a month, yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of points. One is trying to get those nursing homes to do the job they're supposed to do. So they have staff there, but for their own liability, they don't like picking up people either injuring the person or injuring their workers. And I know from experience that I've had, disability, injury reports from my groups before, because a lot of times you're lifting up a 300+ pound person.
Right.
So one is to deter them from calling us in the first place, and the other one's just recouping our costs, just like we do residential real estate inspections. But if they're gonna assist we go, then we just recoup the cost for time being out there. So there, I mean, there is cost to us going out, so.
Oh, there's no question about it.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I wouldn't stay away from private residences, and just stay with the skilled nursing facilities.
I like how you stated that too, with the objective of a deterrent or sending us on what would be really a frivolous medically called, because they have the people to do it too.
Right, it's different if they call us out, this person needs to be transported, they're having a whatever, okay, because we have paramedics. We don't need paramedics and EMTs, so let's, yeah, that's a great job. They should.
Part of the service, that's a good option. What they'll ever, I would provide.
So if we could just get some statistics, or are you saying we should do it?
No, I don't think we can read it, it's not agenda, so I don't think. we
Yeah,
can do it.
I'm not saying we should continue.
I think this study is good to look at.
That's my only board
And
comment.
probably just find out, some other departments, what are they doing, whether are protocol, billing.
I think Rockland and I think Williamsville have that.
Are they charging, going to residents?
I don't know if they're charging residents, but I'm pretty sure they're charging for going to, care facilities.
Well, you could get some information on that, that would help us too, because they're charging universals.
And I know it's a statewide and national issue, it's not just something.
But how many of our firefighters haven't heard doing that, taking somebody else, I mean, they're gonna work in Scott. Why you put that back? With this, I mean.
Because they're all.
Wall in the single wide mobile home. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know, but that,
even in.
Even if it's a resident.
there's a facility.
They're all,
Yeah.
can't get out of it.
Anything else, future agenda items, our next scheduled meeting is September 18th, 25.
Yeah, one comment.
Okay,
Just looking for the. Shingle Springs Chamber is having a, end of summer celebration, I believe it's on Friday, 12th of September. And that might be a good place for, and they're having a bunch of vendors, inviting the community, so forth and so on, and it might be a good time to give, I think the term is a static display with the truck engine at the 28, it might be appropriate. I can get the exact date for you, chief, and I'll send that over.
That'd be great, thank you.
that is. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'm going to adjourn.
In favor?
Aye.
I wrote the signs in my,
Yes.
got my pen here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're. You took up a meeting. Okay.